Every person on Earth has a story, a unique story. Stories with joy and happiness, struggles and failures, and the crazy twists and turns. This is real life. Picture this. One episode, we're sitting down with Jared Folsom, a man who turned his life around from a stint in prison to becoming a millionaire. Another time, we're hearing from a 28-year-old cancer survivor who's conquered childhood adversity. These are the stories that resonate, tales of triumph over adversity, and insights that can inspire us all. Our passion is simple, to enrich lives and spark that fire within you to take that next step in your personal growth. We believe in the power of real stories to create genuine inspiration. Welcome to Real Life with Patrick Clark.
All right, guys, welcome back. We are doing the Real Life podcast here, episode 2, with my buddy Jared Folsom. And man, you got some pretty interesting stories, I know. And we actually, I got something here for you.
Okay.
It's almost totally forgot about it. I got to move all my lights and all my stuff. I'm wondering if you can do us all a favor.
Absolutely.
And so, Motor Trend, I think it's right here somewhere. Yeah. You mind reading that for us?
You know, I don't have my glasses.
You don't have your glasses?
I don't have.
Here, let me read it for you.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead?
You're getting older over here.
Why don't you go ahead and read that?
So, most reliable half-ton pickup on the road seems to be a Ford F-150. 19.2% chance of lasting 250,000 miles.
And what did the Ram get on that?
14%.
Okay.
Okay. But we both got our
By Chevy?
no, Toyota.
Oh, well.
So best in towing capacity here, but they have a 47.9% of going 250,000 miles.
I'm really glad that you brought these statistics in the room. We may want to share the backstory with the viewer a little bit, but that's a great way to kick off. I was wondering if that was going to make the podcast.
Oh, it made it. So guys, this is Jared Folsom. Jared and I are both realtors with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, and we get the pleasure of working together in the same office. And Jared, like I said, has some wonderful stories that he's going to share with us today. But he and I have an epic battle of whose truck is better. He drives a Ram 1500, and I drive a F-150. And so it's this very friendly battle that we go through. But that is besides the point. It's just my opportunity to get my little dig in.
Yep, get your jab in the first 5 minutes. Let's just get that
let's
knocked
get it out of the way.
Get that knocked out, get that out of the way.
So Jared, I know that you have, you've seen a few things. And I would love for you to kind of give us a background on, where you grew up, and kind of the path that got you here, if you can, and kind of tell us your background. I know you've got a degree in business. You also have a degree in nursing. So you've got kind of an interesting background. And, share with us whatever you want to share that I think that people would be interested as far as your possible career paths.
Sure, yeah. First of all, thanks for having me on the Real Life podcast. It's super cool to be here in Flagstaff and see your studio and just get to talk to the viewers and kind of share my experience. I have, I've shared a lot of things with you, and I know that you know that I have an interesting story and somewhat of a success story.
Somewhat is an understatement, bro.
Which I'm really excited to share with the folks that watch this podcast. So, again, thank you for having me on. Yeah. It's unfortunate I'm number 2, could not be number 1. But hey, second place is first loser. So we're getting there. You
ain't first, you're last, Ricky Bobby.
If you ain't first, you're last. That's right. No, I grew up in a very small town just outside of Bangor, Maine. Lived there for the first 15 and a half years of my life. Then moved to Phoenix in 2000, and with my mom, my stepfather at the time, and my 2 brothers. And I finished high school in 03, and so graduated from Barry Goldwater in 2003. It was really intense going from a graduating class of 75 people that I grew up with my entire life to a class of over 3,000 people. So it was a bit of a culture shock coming down here, but it led me, led me to this very place that I'm at right now, and I get to sit across the table from you and have this conversation and kind of share my story.
Well, and I want to dive a little bit deeper into the story, but before we do, you tell us a little bit about the businesses that you operate. You're not just a realtor, but you have a whole company that services short-term rentals. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was a national director of sales and marketing with Marriott International for about 15 years. Moved out to Sedona to actually open a hotel. We opened that hotel February of 2020, which right in the height of COVID, or just before COVID started. So probably the worst time you could have started a hotel. So I worked there for 18 months. Unfortunately, my position was eliminated, and so I had to figure out what to do. I was making a great salary. Obviously, Sedona is not a cheap place to live, but me and my family were very integrated into the community. And we loved being there. So, but the unfortunate thing is there's not a whole lot of places in Sedona where you can walk in and make $125,000 a year, starting off. So it was a bit of a challenge. So we had to make a decision. It was either, move back to Phoenix or figure out a new path for me in hospitality. But I knew I wanted to be in hospitality because that's where I'd been for the majority of my career. So went through some options with my wife, and she said, you should just start your own property management company. She said, you've been doing it for 15 years. You've just been doing it for somebody else, And I said, yeah, it's not a bad idea. And I'm not a pessimist by any stretch of the imagination, but I like to see, I try to see the glass half full, but sometimes that's difficult. And God bless her. My question to her was, well, what if it doesn't work? And she looked at me without skipping a beat, and she said, well, what if it does? And so I knew right there that A, I had the best woman on the planet, but B, I had someone that would support me through whatever, whether, pass or fail. So that was extremely helpful. So 2.5 years ago, 2.5 years ago, Folsom Management was born. We got our first property, and we specialize in short-term rentals throughout the Verde Valley. So Cottonwood, Clarkdale, Cornville, Rimrock, and Sedona. And that's what we do. We do short-term rentals anywhere between 3 and 29 nights, and people come and visit. As you know or may not know, Sedona sees somewhere between 3 million and 5 million visitors a year. So having these places is a great opportunity to house and host some of these people that come visit. So we started August of 22. Got our first home in August of 22, and we've been growing at a rapid rate, and we're up to 51 homes now. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And your revenue has been really healthy. I've been, you and I have had lots of conversations about how you've done with that. And I would, the whole real life podcast, the whole premise of this is to try to help people maybe get inspired or, see something in themselves that they maybe would not have thought was possible, and now is. I've had that when I got into real estate. I wasn't sure if I could do it. What if I can't? Well, what if you could? Kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
And I mean, what an awesome thing for Celeste to say. That's to have her behind you like that's a really cool thing. But I guess. One of the questions I would love to know is, especially with what you guys are going to hear in just a little bit, having gone through some of this stuff in your life, did you ever imagine that you would have the success that you have right now? Because you're very successful, I believe.
Well, thank you. That's very nice. That's very nice for you to say. It's very nice to hear. Success is kind of what you make it and what you want to make it. A lot of people, especially friends that I grew up with in the Valley, they also see me as successful, and not that I don't see myself as successful, but I still feel like I have a lot of growth to do and a lot of growing to do, both on a personal standpoint and a business standpoint. So I don't know where I was going with that thought.
Well, I think the question was, did you ever think that you would be where you are right now?
Oh, no, absolutely not. No, coming from my situation and coming from where I've came from and experiencing what I've experienced in life, no, I never would have imagined being where I'm at. I always anticipated, working a 9 to 5, never having the flexibility in my schedule, absolutely never having the revenue stream that we have now as a family. So to achieve those things and to be where I'm at today, both in my company and with Berkshire Hathaway, it's a huge blessing.
And so now you have really, I think you've done a really good job of it, especially with Celeste being the marketing person that she is. She actually has her own marketing company as well. Yep. But so you are, as a realtor, using your short-term rental contacts and position as a lead funnel, correct? Am I correct
absolutely.
about that?
Yeah. So what we do is, each one of my homes, we have a welcome binder for our guests that stay, for them to have a comfortable and successful experience while in our care. We have these binders, and the binders have, how to operate the homes, how to operate the things in the homes. But also what I do, or what Celeste has done for me, has created a piece of collateral that we put in there. And it says something along the lines of, hey, thanks for staying with us. We appreciate you being our guest. And then you flip it over and it says, are you thinking of staying longer? And so on the front, it has my property management spiel, and on the back, it has my Berkshire Hathaway spiel. So I set a goal for myself for every year to do 1 transaction per quarter. That's my goal. Last year, I did 6 transactions, and 4 of those transactions came from guests who saw that flyer.
And you did well with revenue. I mean, any realtor, a practicing realtor, just on their own sales would be very content with the volume in sales that you've done, and to manage that many doors and to do real estate transactions, there's a level of efficiency and effectiveness there. You're very focused, and one of the things I love about you is you are very honest and to the point about what you don't have time for. It's respectful, but it's also
sometimes it is.
Well, but I mean the bottom line is you have really and maybe I'm missing something, but from the outside looking in, it seems to me that you got pretty good clarity on, hey, this matters, this doesn't. I stay focused on this. If I can help with that, I will, but if I can't, I don't. Right. And I think that really has driven you from the outside looking in and watching how you have grown your business and watching how other practitioners in real estate grow their business. You are not easily distracted.
Yeah, and my wife says the same thing, and she's like, she constantly says, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you keep track of these owners. And I'm always spouting off things to her, like owner names and house names, and like she knows what I'm talking about. And she's like, I have no idea how you keep this straight and don't go crazy every day. And I do. I have a certain level of focus when it comes to business and being successful and what that means to me. And I know how to hone that in, And like you said, my biggest thing, I know what I know and I know what I don't know. I know what I have time for, and I know what I don't have time for. And it's not to say that I can't or I won't make time for those things, but it's just not going to be right now.
Right.
I've learned how to prioritize things both in my personal life and my business, and that's helped out immensely. And it also helps that Celeste runs my entire back end. She runs my website. She does any marketing collateral. She does social media stuff. So having that to not worry about. And I mean, as everybody knows, social media today is absolutely huge. Yeah, it's impertinent to be on social media if you want to be successful. That's how, I've made so many connections through social media. So to have her running and focused on just that back end is phenomenal. It takes a huge portion off my plate. And then I have my team. I have my team of cleaners. I have my operations specialists. I have my director of operations. So I have people underneath me not handling, but helping me handle my day to day.
So when you started, so this is interesting because what you're seeing now is the product of a lot of hard work, right? You didn't start with all of this back end, right? You've built this as you have gone and you've added in. And can you share with us kind of how you scaled and how you went through the process of scaling?
So I put this post out on Nextdoor, and
Of all places.
and next, yeah, it wasn't Facebook, it wasn't Instagram, it was Nextdoor. And next thing I know, I look at my phone, and this is probably 30 to 40 minutes after I put the post out. That post had gotten flagged 9 times and removed from Nextdoor because of all the hate that I got from it. But I'll never forget, I was in the gym one day, and I got a call from one of my owners, and she was my very first house, and I still manage her property. But she gave me a call, said, "Hey, I live in Northern California, and I need help managing my place. I've been doing it myself, but I can't do it from here anymore." And she said, "I saw your post on Nextdoor and all the controversy it got, so I wanted to call and see what you were all about." And so I told her, I was very, very blatant with her, very honest, and I said, "Look, I have no idea what I'm doing." I said, I told her my situation with Marriott, and I said, "I have an extensive hospitality background, and I'm very, very good at what I do. I'm very good at sales. I'm very good at customer support, guest service. Like, I have that locked in. But I said, when it comes to short-term rentals, I have no clue what I'm doing. So if you want to give me a shot, then, we'll keep the ball rolling. And if not, I totally get it." And she said, "I really like that honesty." She's like, I want to see what you're all about. I want to see what you got."
Yeah.
And so
How cool is that, man?
So I was at the gym. I said, "Well, I'm at the gym. I'm finishing up my workout." And she said, "Cool, here's my address. If you want to pop by, I'll set you a code." And I said, "Yeah, give me like an hour and I'll pop over there." And so popped over there, did a walkthrough, had no idea what I was looking for. I just knew that this woman had a beautiful house that I wanted to manage as my first home. And so we managed her home for the first month, and I kind of got my feet wet and figured out what Airbnb and VRBO and systems were all about. And I didn't have a website in place. I didn't have anything in place. It was just me and this one house. So at that point, I started building a contract and like making things really official. And then from there, once I got that secured and once I started rolling with that, and again, I didn't have a cleaning staff at that time. I was cleaning these houses myself, which, I mean, in the Marriott world, I flipped so many guest rooms, it wasn't even funny. So I'd clean these places and do what I did to manage them. And then starting, let's see, probably September or October, something caught on. And by the end of October, I had like 10 properties. And I don't know how it happened. It happened so fast. I don't know how it happened, but it was like these two people supported me on social, and they had friends in town who also had Airbnbs, and they're like, "You got to give this kid a try." Yeah. He's, and my thing is, I'm not super corporate. I just like to be relaxed and have fun, and I would say 95% of my owners right now like know my kids' names, know my dog's name. Like, I just like to build that personal connection because I think that's what's important in business.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, we're all in business to make money, and at the end of the day, for me, it's all about the relationship. Mm-hmm. So you've done all of this, but you've had some setbacks. I've had a few setbacks,
and these setbacks are. I'm sure you've had some setbacks in your business too. I mean, that's obvious. That always happens, right? It's 2 rungs up, 1 rung back, that kind of leapfrog thing. But I would love for you to share as much as you're willing to.
Yeah.
About before Marriott, and this is something that this to me, it's a tricky thing to talk about even sometimes, right? Because stigma. I mean, let's just put it out there, right? There can be stigma around this. And I am such a believer in, we are not our past, right? We are who we are. And, let me put it this way. I know a lot of people who have not gone through what you have gone through that I would never trust, who have far less character than you. And I admire you. I think a lot of you. And your story, and I'm gonna let you share this, but I kind of wanna preface this, and this is why I do this podcast. This is why I did it. When I actually had another friend of mine that has something kind of similar, and it's about the comeback story. It's the Tom Brady type of thing where there's no way they're gonna win the game. It's the last quarter and they've got 15-20 minutes left in the game, and he pulls it out of the hat and
28 points down with 15 to go.
Dude, I mean, just stuff like that, and you're like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, and so, but it also, for me, you in particular, and I don't know if you know this, but for me, with all of the stuff that's gone on the last couple of years, and you know very well, I think more than most people do, there's been some massive trials. And every time I feel like I'm getting kind of in my own little pity party, my own little dumps, I think about you, and I think about the things that you've gone through, and I'm like, wait, hold on. This is not as bad as you're making it to be. So calm down, get over it, and get moving. Right? Now, we all have our own struggles. We have these tough times. But so now that I've kind of set the table, share what you feel you would want people to know about what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you for those kind words. That's extremely nice of you to say. And I find myself in the same predicament. When I'm having an issue, or I'm like, man, this really sucks, and I'm like, but does it? Mm-hmm. I've been through so much worse.
Yeah. And
I made it out. So this is like, when I put it to perspective, it's like, this is nothing compared to that. So, and it's funny because I've told this story a ton of times, and I've talked about my experiences with perfect strangers. I've told good friends who I've known for years that didn't know about my past. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I always get the same reaction, and that reaction is, man, you're just so matter of fact about the story you're telling. Mm-hmm. It sounds so intense, but you're so matter of fact, like, it happened. And that's it, man. It did. It happened. It is what it is. So I'm not saying it didn't suck, but needless to say, where do I even start?
Well, let's put it this way. Jared's got a criminal record. Can I say that?
Yeah, you can definitely say that. Yeah,
and he's been locked up, and I mean, I don't know if some of the stories that we probably don't even have enough time for some of the stories you shared with me, but that's the bottom line. I mean, you've been to prison.
I've been to prison twice. Yeah. Okay. I did my first stint for an aggravated DUI. Just blew over the limit. That was in 2012. 4-month stint, Florence North Unit. That was an eye-opener because I had actually just met Celeste at that point. Mm-hmm. Met Celeste St. Patrick's Day 2012, and I went in May of 2012. So we had developed this incredible relationship in the short amount of time. And I knew when we met, I knew that I was going in. I had already been, pre-sentenced, and it was predetermined that I was going to go on this date at this time for this amount of time. And so the day I had to tell her that I was going was really tough.
I bet.
Super, super tough. But she happened to have an internship with Jaguar, doing design work for Jaguar in Los Angeles at that time. And so she was great, man. We stayed connected over the 4 months, and And 4 months is not a long time. Like but when you're like, I'm going to prison for 4 months, it seems like a long time, you know. And I didn't know what to expect, and so that was my first stint. I got out. Celeste and I reconnected. Kind of got things picked up where they left off. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for her. It wasn't easy for me. It was weird getting acclimated back into a normal society after having that experience, but it wasn't an experience that really jarred me or tainted me a whole lot. So, you know, thankfully I got back on track. I got out, I had a job. Me and her were together. Fast forward to, I think it was April. Found out we were pregnant with Ryder.
Okay.
And so that was awesome. And then our life just took off. Like our life was, you know, we knew we were going to be together. And we got married May 9th, 2013.
Okay.
And had Ryder, we had Ryder December 2nd, 2013.
Okay.
So yeah, everything was great. We had great jobs. We'd started a business down in Mesa. We were living in Mesa, had our own place that we'd purchased. So things were seemingly good. Marriage was going great. But my problem was I was trying to be the father. I was trying to be the husband, but I was also trying to be the party friend and hang out with my friends. Mm-hmm. And I have some friends, they're still friends to this day. I've known them for 25 years. And we used to whip it up. We used to make some really, really bad decisions.
You'll throw down a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'd throw down a little bit. And so, oh man, when was this? This is in February 2015. I made some bad decisions in 2015. I won't go into the details, but made some bad decisions, less than desirable decisions. Ran from the cops. It was all bad. It's a bad situation. And so needless to say, I got picked up for it and went through the whole court process. And at the end of the day, I ended up getting 2.5 years.
Okay.
So,
but can I pause? I mean, I don't want to go too deep into the story because I want to be really sensitive to this and I understand that, you know, once this particular podcast goes out, this is going to, like, people are going to be probably surprised.
Yeah.
You know,
they may be.
And that's okay. I'm not necessarily doing this for the shock value. It's just more for, I love the comeback part of this, but there was part of this that was, it could have been a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
And there were some circumstances surrounding you not going as long as you did that was just, you know, people having been around, and there was some testimony and evidence that said, hey, look, this was, I mean, yeah, it was a bad thing that happened, but at the end of the day, there was wrongdoing on the other side of this, and we can't necessarily, you know, throw the book at this guy.
Yeah.
And so here you are, like, but 2.5 years, man, and you know what Florence is all about because you've been there once, right? So talk to us about, okay, you've got a, you know, Ryder's hanging around. Yep. Celeste is gone. I mean, this is, I don't want to say it's a get out of jail free card for Celeste, but it kind of is, right? I mean, this is a point where, you know, some people would say,
yep, absolutely.
I'm out. So tell me about that part, because I mean that was very moving when you shared that with me. Yeah. And are you okay with?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and to kind of go back to what you were saying about the could have done longer. I know you know that story, but I'll tell you guys that story. So I was on the night that all this happened. I was driving home, got not pulled over because I didn't pull over, but got lit up, and I was coming home from a bar, and got lit up, and I was like half mile from my house, and I saw the red and the blues, and I'm like, well, I'm half mile from my house. I'm just gonna park in the driveway, get inside, and I'll be good to go. And that
obviously Not coherent thinking.
Not the case at all. It was
Nobody
much
that
the
was
opposite.
not inebriated
Yeah.
would think that. But
Yeah.
it is what it is.
It is what it is. So, so I get out of my truck, and I have kind of a long walkway up to my front door. This is probably like, I don't know, 2 a.m, pitch blackout, and mind you, I'm in my mid-20s at this point. 6'7". I was probably the biggest I've ever been. I was probably like 270, 280.
I could have taken him.
Yeah,
I could have taken him.
easily, with one arm tied behind your back.
Yeah. David and Goliath. Man.
So I was walking up to my door, and I hear the officer get out of his truck or his car, but he didn't announce himself. He did not announce himself. And again, pitch black. I'm at my front door, and all of a sudden I just get blindsided into my house, into the side of my house. And so I freak out, and needless to say, we tussled a lot of it. And this cop had to be like 160, 170 maybe. And
Smaller than me.
Yeah,
Wow.
He was not a big fella. But I just I was not in a good mental state. I was not in the right mental state, and that surprise hit didn't.
Boom.
Yeah, I just kind of lost it.
Yeah.
Kind of lost it for a minute. So yeah, some things transpired. Unfortunately, there were some injuries that occurred.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not proud of that by any stretch of the imagination. Never have claimed to be. But it is what it is. It happened. So anyway, this officer went to the hospital. And so when I went to my initial sentencing, they wanted to give me, I think it was like 12 and a half years.
Okay.
And which was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. But again, there was some testimony that came out. I had some people that saw the situation,
Mm-hmm.
and they testified on my behalf,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of set that apart from what the court saw and what actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no, hey, stop, freeze. There was no announcement of anything. There was just, boom.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So
to me, just to pause here, and I know we've kind of got to get to the tail end of this here, but that to me is a moment of a break in probably integrity in that officer, right? Because the officer's now fired up.
Right.
Bit of a power trip. We're gonna call a spade, right?
Sure.
So the officer's got, nobody runs from me. Kind of like, that's the way
Sure.
when you tell me the story, it's like, to me, that's the personification that I get, right? It's the, little bit too big for the britches, forgetting about protocols, forgetting about processes,
Sure.
the things that, they're trained to do for these reasons, right? Instead of de-escalating, we escalated, and now we almost lose our life, right?
Right.
And somebody else is now jeopardized with their family. Then things could have been a lot different if we would just use our words.
Sure.
So so now you're sentenced. What happens to Celeste? What happens to you guys?
yeah, so and yeah, going back to your point, it is one of those things that I think both of us were just in the moment.
Yeah.
He was not in the wrong. I was not in the wrong. He wasn't in the right. I was definitely not in the right. And unfortunately, a bad thing happened.
Yeah.
So, but yes, I definitely agree with that. So yeah, fast forward, we're sentenced. We know what the outcome is. We know that I'm going to be gone for an extended period of time. And like you said, I gave her that option. We had that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
If you want out, now's the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Ryder this was February of 2015, so he was like 1.5.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, obviously that's not the end result that I want, but if you're going to do it now. Don't wait a year until I'm in.
Right.
And then decide, I'm tired of this, I can't do it anymore.
Right.
So I said, here's your out. If you want it, take it. I don't want that, but I understand.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, man, she, without skipping a beat, she said, no, I'm going to stick this out with you. I said, all right, that's unreal. Like, I didn't even know. I had no words. at that point. So fast forward to, I believe it was May 15th, I had to go in and self-surrender. Probably one of the worst days of my life. And because I remember she drove me to the courthouse, and I remember sitting in the car just looking out the window, and I just started bawling my eyes out because,
I bet. Yeah.
and I don't cry. I'm not a crier, and she knows that. A lot of my people know that. It's not that I'm not an emotional person. I just have a hard time crying. Yeah. But all I could think about was, I'm not going to see my son for another 2.5 years. And that just absolutely tore me apart.
Yep.
And I know that I'm not going to be able to kiss this woman for another 2.5 years. And that tore me apart. So yeah, I'll never forget that day. So went in, self-surrendered, went through the process, which the process is a process.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare. You go into the courthouse, and then they send you to this midway point. It's called Alhambra. That place is nothing nice. It's pretty miserable. You're locked up for 23 hours a day. You get one hour rec time a day. And you're all just in this one room, and they pack you in there. And so you're there for about a week, and then they figure out where they're going to put you, and then you get on a bus and they take you.
So I will skip through a lot of the details of the stories, but to kind of get to the point where, okay, you've reached a point where you got good behavior, and you're kind of out processing now. But I mean, you were assaulted.
Yeah.
I mean, this was not a friendly place for you to be. And I know that you said that you read a lot of books. You you obviously had a lot of downtime, if you will. But one of the things that was super cool, and why I think that your story is so interesting and inspiring, to be perfectly honest, is you went back to school. Like, you took that 2.5 years and you said, I'm not going to let this be my normal. I'm not going to be an in and out guy. I'm not going to be a system guy. Right? I'm going to make a change.
You can't let it, you just can't let it define you.
Right.
Like, you can't, and you have to, if you're going, and I mean, again, with some of the guys that I was locked up with, 2.5 years is not a long time. Like, that's a very short time. And then with the 85% rule that Arizona has, you're looking at really, 2 years just under. So that's not a long time. And I mean, you get in there, and that's not something that you talk about. I mean, I was in there I roomed with a guy that was doing life. I roomed with guys that were doing 25 to 50. I roomed with all walks of life. So in the introspect or retrospect or whatever, 2 years, 2.5 years is not a long time.
But in the scheme of what has happened in my life in 2 years,
right?
I mean, it goes by like that, but a lot has happened, right? So
sure.
A lot of life happens in 2 years, And to your point, Ryder, I'm not going to get to see him for 2.5
right,
years, 2 years.
Yeah.
Celeste, these people that matter, and there's an absence, right? So you got your degree in business, I guess. You got an associate's degree in business.
Yep, finished my associate's in business.
Yeah, and so now you have this business degree. You come out, you get a second chance with somebody that decides to mentor you and sees you, not the stuff that has happened, right? Because we all have it. I mean, we may not have had been locked up or things, but we probably all have things in our past that we regret that we have said or done, or to whatever level we express that guilt or that shame.
Sure.
But you have really done a good job of not letting that define you. You've come out swinging. And I know I'm skipping so much.
No, it's good.
But I think, as we kind of come to the close of all of this, I know that you got a scar on your chin from getting hit with a shovel from a guy.
Yeah.
And there's some things that you have gone through that suck, that you would never want to go back to again. Tell us about, why you don't go back. I mean, outside of the obvious.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, I mean,
yeah.
it's like, it's obvious. Well, like, nobody wants to go back into that.
Right.
Right? But you told me that there's guys that, like, they don't know anything else. So
Right.
they get released and they go intentionally do something and gets them put right back in.
Right.
Because they don't know how to take care of themselves. Right?
They can't handle the streets, and that's what I'm saying. You say nobody wants to go back. I know 3 or 4 guys that wanted to go back because that's all they knew.
Yeah.
They couldn't handle the streets. They didn't have a support system, and going back inside is a guaranteed 3 hot meals a day. It's a place to sleep, and there are things to do in there. And it's such a controlled environment that's what those people need.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the first guy that I saw go out and come back. And I worked with him in agriculture. And he was getting out, I think he had like 2 weeks left. And I said, man, aren't you so excited to be out on the street, like out of here? And he's like, nah. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I said,
what a shock.
Yeah, you get out of there. Like I was shocked. I'm like, I almost didn't know how to respond. But his response to me was, I'll probably come back. I'll be back in here in 3 months. And I'm not kidding you. Almost 3 months to that day, he showed back up on the yard. And it was unreal. And I think in the time that I did, I think I saw probably 4 guys do that. Go through that revolving door of get out on the street, commit a crime, back in. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
And that's, I guess I get it.
I get it too.
It's a security.
Having been through it, I understand it, and I guess for me, with these people not having a support system and me having such a huge support system, that's where my success was. It wasn't that I was a different person or all these changes had been made. It's because I got to come out to family and my wife and my kid. That's what made the difference. And I mean, believe me, I made some changes. I made a lot.
Sure.
I made a lot of changes.
Yeah.
I made a lot of changes. yeah. I did a lot of. When you're in a situation like that and you really understand where rock bottom is for you, and you're at that point, and you realize, man, I'm still alive, and I guess there's no way to go but up.
Yeah.
That's when kind of that switch flipped, and I'm like, you get to that release point. And okay, I know I've got my wife, I know I've got my family, I know I've got my mom and dad and that side of my family, my brothers, and so it's almost like it's a path that you have to choose. Is like, okay, do I want to continue being an idiot going down this path and hanging out with my friends and doing this and partying and stuff, or do I want to do the right thing and continue to grow my family and be successful and try to put this behind me, And that was, obviously I chose that path, but it was hard, man. Like those people, my best friends that I've been friends with for 25 years, when I got out, all they wanted to do was throw me a party and just do
kick it right off again.
Wild stuff again. Yeah. And I'll never forget the day that I had to have a conversation with my best friend of 25 years. And I talked to him and I said, listen, I can't hang with you anymore. I can't see you anymore. And this is probably like 2 weeks after I got out. I said, you are so toxic for me. And I'm not saying that you're a toxic person. I'm saying that you are toxic for me. When I'm around you, I feel invincible. And I just do some just off the wall banana stuff. And I don't want that to happen anymore. I said, I have this family that's given me a second, maybe even a third chance.
Yeah.
And if that happens again, they go away. So I said, for now, I can't see you anymore. I can't talk to you anymore. I can't be around you anymore. And that was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had to have in my life. And we've since developed a relationship, and we see each other sometimes. He lives in the valley, but
it's got some boundaries. It's
what I needed.
Yeah,
it's what I needed. Yeah, there's definitely you have to set boundaries, and getting out of a situation like that after an extended period of time, things are different. Like the outside world is a little bit different. I know, that may sound weird after, it's a long time while you're in there, but it's a short time for outsiders.
In the scheme
in the
of
scheme
things.
in the scheme of things, it's a short time, but it is readjusting and reacclimating. I remember when I got out, I was out for like 3 weeks, and Celeste and her family and I went to a restaurant in Tempe, and I freaked out. I lost it because there was something, I felt like everyone was looking at me funny, or I don't know, I freaked out. I had a freak out moment.
You kind of stigmatized yourself.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Wow,
Yeah, I was
okay.
like, I saw myself as this person, this criminal that everybody else could see, even though they had no idea.
Right.
But yeah, I had a freak out moment. I had to leave the restaurant because I just I needed a minute. So yeah, it was wild. But yeah, I chose that path of being with Celeste and being a husband and a father, and I took that third element and completely threw it in the trash. And that's where we restarted our life. And then I had a very good friend of mine. He's still a very good friend of mine. He ran a hotel. He was GM of a hotel in Tempe. And he wrote me the entire time I was in. We stayed connected, and he was at my sentencing and spoke on my behalf. And he told the judge, he said, I guarantee this guy's got a job with me anytime. When he gets out, he's got a job. And 2.5 years later, he was true to his word.
Yeah.
And so he hired me at the hotel. That was my first hotel gig. And he's like, I need a director of sales. And I'm like, I have no idea how to do that.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I'll teach you. And I'm like, okay. So I did that with him, and I figured out I was really good at it. And then,
obviously,
yeah,
proof is now in the pudding.
proof is in the pudding.
Times.
Yeah, proof's in the pudding. And then a year with him, I started to make all these hotel connections in the Tempe market, and I met this guy Mike, who is still a very good friend of mine, a huge supporter of mine, and a very successful hotelier. He was at a Marriott property across the river, across Tempe Town Lake from me. So I got to know him, and so he plugged me in with some of his people, and just the ball just kind of started rolling. And so this other guy, who, again, still very good friends with, gave me a chance at a Marriott property, a loft at the airport. And I ran that for, 2 years. And then I was recognized by another company. We moved up to Portland, Oregon. I opened a couple of hotels up there. So it's just been, my success has been due to the support of very good people who have seen past and know who I am as a person.
And that's what I'm after.
Yeah.
I think that's really what I'm after. We need to understand that, like, everybody makes mistakes, right? We've got to be careful with our judgment, right? Of others and of ourselves. And I would venture to say that we probably judge others as hard as we judge ourselves. Sure. Even though we probably still judge ourselves even harder, right? Judgment is such a scary thing to do, right? Because it brings in so many dark thoughts, right? Now, judgment, judging that it's judging character, right? Because we have to all judge character, right? Does this person have morals, right? And have we all made mistakes? Yes, we all. So we can forgive mistakes, but what is the character of the person, right? So we still, judgment is still important because we have to make judgment calls, judgment decisions. But judging in that way, I think to all of those guys and gals even that have seen through that and just see you, like, I want to meet these people.
Yeah, no, they're I mean, there's
because it's, to me, that shows their character, right? And what a great place, what a great environment to go. And you had to make the choice. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You had to make the decision to latch onto that generosity and take it and run with it.
Right.
And so you have this internal desire to make things better. And I think, at the end of the day, your past doesn't define you. And there's a point where you kind of have to go, get over it.
Right.
It happened.
Right.
Right? And I've had those talks with myself, right?
Right.
And let's get over it and get on with it.
Yeah. And that takes a while. Coming out of that situation when you're in there for that amount of time and you have these COs, guards at the prison, telling you what a piece of you are, and you're never going to amount to anything, and you're never going anywhere. In fact, you're probably going to be back here in 6 months. Like, that's the mentality that they put into your head. And it's extremely hard.
Awful.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And it's extremely hard to overcome when you're in that environment, because that's all that you know. That's what you're surrounded with. But if you can beat that mentality and just know that you're better and put up how those Clydesdales have the blinders?
Blinders,
If you can put those blinders on and just say, man, this is where I need to go, and all this other stuff just goes away, that's what it's about. That's how, me personally, I've achieved my success. Is just by putting those blinders on and focusing on myself, my family, and what it is I want out of life.
Yeah, and focusing on the important. And that is such a perfect way to round out and close out the conversation, because when we started this, like, dude, you are focused. You are so, and it's just perfectly done. I know we did not tee that up. I have to be
no.
But touche, right? So I mean, dude, what a great lesson for all of us, is to put away that emotional noise. Put away the emotion, the noise of your past, and the noise of you'll never make it. Whoever said that to you, or whether you said it to yourself, or whatever thoughts that you have of, I can't, it's not true.
Right.
You can. Another human being has done it. You can.
Yeah.
You just have to choose and be very clear on what really matters.
Yeah.
And when you find that clarity, and sometimes it takes a shock like that, or a moment in your life where you hit rock bottom. I've got another buddy of mine that's going to be on this podcast that I never thought would ever stop drinking. And he, and look, if you have a drink here and there, or you're struggling with it, no judgment passed. But I was worried about him because I thought he was going to die.
Yeah.
And he almost did. And by the blood work that he had, he should have been dead. And somehow he's still around, and he turned it. And it was just like, wow, dude, what an amazing, and I can't wait for him to be on here too. But it is that moment when you finally realize, I need to make a change. And you hit that fork in the road, stick the blinders on, and go.
Yeah. And if it's really what you want.
Right.
And that's when, and just like, I'm not the first person that's done this. I mean, look at Robert Downey Jr.
Sure.
He did a ton of time
in prison.
Yeah. He was in LA County. He did some prison time, and now he's one of the highest paid actors in LA, because he got out and he knew what he wanted to do. Mm-hmm. He knew he didn't want to do drugs and be in that scene anymore. And so I'm not the first person to do this, but I love sharing my story with people, and letting people know, if they do get into that situation, it's possible to get out of it. It takes time, believe me, it takes a ton of time. But if you have the patience, and you have the support system, and if you have the drive, and if you have the focus, you can do it. Yeah, anybody can do it.
Dude, I love that, and I think I was going to ask you to, give us a little out there, and you just did it automatically. and I think, to close this out myself, guys, if you are in that place where you're just not sure what to do, you've got that negative self-talk, you've got all of that stuff going on. I hope today's story inspires you to say, hey, this doesn't have to be me anymore. And I'm going to give you a book that you need to read to help you get through that. It's called Atomic Habits. And start with the small stuff, because the small stuff over time, 1% every day is 365% in a year. I love that. And I know Jared's living that. I don't know if he thinks about it that way, but I certainly have. Guys, go out there and get it. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching, whether you're listening to this or watching this or both. Thanks for being here, and we wish you guys all the best, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Have a wonderful day.